Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel for this auspicious, beautiful new moon in Capricorn activation for this week of December 29th through into the new year. So as I'm recording this, a couple auspicious things are happening, and that is we are in the void moon and then the dark of the moon, and then we hit a new moon happening on Monday, the 30th of December at around 2:30 Pacific time in the afternoon. That's going to take us all the way through the new year. So for all intents and purposes, this is our new year, this new moon in Capricorn. And what a delicious, beautiful new moon. And of course, I would say that because my Venus is in Capricorn. And so to me, love has structure, love has commitment. Love has mastery in it. And that's what we're going to explore today in this transmission of the new moon. So, as I'm recording this, Chiron, the wounded healer, stationing direct in Aries. So, that's important because we've been on a very big healing journey. Since when? If you've been following me, you know, since the April eclipse. Remember that eclipse? It was in Aries, that solar eclipse that was conjunct Chiron in Aries. So we had the wounded healer right there as this reboot was happening and this opening into a new normal. And now here we went through the rest of the year, like 3/4 of the year, and we're at the end. And here Chiron is now direct at this same degree point, hearkening back to that eclipse saying, okay, you got the healing. So I want you to tune in because sometimes these things are so subtle or they're incorporated into our daily life, but seriously tune in. You got the healing. I know I did. When I go back and look at the path that I was on from April and the twists and the turns and the downs and the ups, I realize that I have come through just a massive portal around my self-worth, around abundance, around speaking my truth. What was your portal? It was probably the same because we're divine feminine are on that path. And while the details may look different for each person, those are some of the deep lessons of this Aries, bold, sovereign leader. And that's what we are becoming under the influence of these planets and the cosmos and our evolutionary trajectory. So that already is just uplifting this new moon. Now, this new moon in Capricorn at the end of 2024 is giving us the liftoff that we need to create a new beginning, a whole new chapter for 2025. Now, it's ruled by Saturn because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And this Saturn is making a sextile, therefore supporting whatever letting go needs to happen in order to, and that's a big in order to what? To step in because you've changed, you've grown, you've healed certain parts of your life, or you've gone up the evolutionary spiral, right? There's always more here on planet Earth. But for now, we're going to concern ourselves with how far we have come and the prices of admission, which is the letting go, so much letting go. Things that we made bargains with God, right? Like, I don't want to get rid of that because and we get really mental. It works in this way. Because the kids will be upset, because this, because that. But our soul really wasn't on board for that. So over the rest of that year, from the initiation of that solar eclipse, we had to let go of quite a bit. And so I'm just acknowledging that letting go in you, in me. And sometimes it was harder than others. Sometimes it got beat out of us. I know for myself, just slamming into certain lessons. But ultimately, and here's the deal with Saturn, ultimately, we got the gold. We're getting the gold. It's happening right now. So claim that gold as you step into this new chapter. So we know that there's completions and new beginnings. The new beginnings will continue through 2025, which will make it a very unstable year. We're going from Earth, totally stable. Think about Capricorn and structures, and moving into fire and air and just this wildness, this untamability. Can you tame air? No. Can you tame fire? I mean, it's really hard. So we're moving into that energy signature, which promises to be really unstable and volatile. And we're going to have two timelines there. So I want to talk about the two timelines that show up today in our astrology to support us in a way forward. And then I think I'll circle back to this new moon because it's just so good. We just came through the solstice, and the solstice was that 0-degree point of Capricorn. And Capricorn is a cardinal sign initiating us into a new season, a new cycle. The solstice for some, and I'm included in that, is extremely important. It's a high holy day. Your rising sign is at the top of the chart with Capricorn, and mine is in the God house. It's just such an opening. And I don't know if you felt it, but I felt a huge upgrade over the solstice. I went into my own personal plant medicine journey by myself. I've done this many, many times, and it was so profound. And I'm going to weave in some of what I discovered in that journey into this conversation here, because you weren't there, and I wish you were there. It was so amazing. All right, so we're at 10 degrees. The moon and the sun are at this like 9 and change degrees, so around 10-degree Capricorn in the Sabian symbol. I brought in the Sabian symbol before. Elsie Wheeler channeled these statements for every degree point. And this statement for this point, I want to read it. It says, an albatross is feeding from the hand of a sailor. So think about those big birds feeding from the hand of a sailor. These are ocean birds. And what this says is that it's radiating peaceful harmony. So your radiance is at such a level that a wild bird feels safe to come eat out of your hand. This is so beautiful, the energy of this new moon. So the sun and the moon are on the same side. They're not opposite because it's not a full moon. It's a new moon, sun and moon. And this is our seed planting time because it's a dark moon. It's a fertile void. And this is such an incredible time to plant the seeds for 2025 and track it over the next 6 months when we have our full moon in Capricorn, which will be in Cancer season. So we want to ask ourselves in that full moon, where did we receive mastery? So chances are you were really taken to task in a certain area of your life. And so where was that area? And acknowledge yourself for the level of mastery that you achieved. This moon is asking you and requiring you to be a better person, to be a better leader. I don't usually like to say it in those moral kind of tones, but truly, I can feel that I'm close to my potential and I'm committing. This is what this moon is about, the commitment to want to step into it. And so everyone has that flavor in their own way. Where are you clear that you can do better, that you know you have the chops? Really, you do. You have the chops to do this thing. Maybe it's in relationship. And I know a few friends whose relationship was really spiraling. And they made some changes internally, mostly about who they're being. And that shifted the dynamic, and they know they can do better. They know they can show up better in relationship to achieve their intention. We can't control how other people experience it, but we can get impact and feedback. And we can also tune into ourselves that knows the truth. Like, okay, you've been nagging. Okay, you've been complaining. Okay, you've been wanting this person to change. That's no bueno. It's not going to happen. So, okay, I'm going to do the inner work to find this allowance for what is. And all judgment starts in the allowance of the self. What am I not allowing here? And so chances are you've been worked on some level, whether it's that or money or your job or your children, or where you put your sense of safety and stability. That's a big one. So Capricorn is also about self-respect and your authority. Are you willing to own your authority? And we each have that. We've been cultivating on the mat of life some level of authority that we can stand in, not as power over, like I'm going to tell you what to do, but as, I know. I at least know this much because I've lived this life and my experience tells me this. And we're always free to say, in my experience, how has it occurred to me so far? We're always free to put those disclaimers on. So really our job at this new moon is to make peace for what has dissolved. I mean, we've had Saturn in Pisces, so lots of dissolution. What has dissolved and is therefore not going to come with you in 2025. It's not. And so can we breathe into that? Can we allow that truth to be there? And can we move forward with new commitments, a new energy, a new vision of who we get to be? That's so exciting to me. We haven't had this kind of fresh start. I mean, we've had little ones throughout the year, but we really haven't had this fresh start. And then we get our new moon in Aquarius, was going to kick off that Aquarian age. I mean, everything kicks off with the new moon. So you also have to look at where Capricorn is in your chart, because that's the house where the conversation is happening. And I said, mine is the ninth house. It's the God house. So everything that I'm thinking it is, actually, it's not. It's below that. It's spiritual. It's divine. It's my relationship with God. Like that helps me so much because I think it's this or that or the other. So find out where that's happening. It's very ambitious energy. So chances are you're going to receive a message from your soul at this time if you are quiet, because solitude and inner quietness are the requisites to receiving information from your soul, from life, from the divine about an ambitious new plan. And that ambitious new plan could simply be to embody that radiance that a wild bird could eat out of my hand. Have you ever seen those memes of like these Tibetan monks? It's a visual image of a Tibetan monk and a tiger or a lion. And there's no fear in that person. So the animal doesn't think it's prey, like the human is prey, because there's no fear running. So it's like that, like we've come to some place from that Chiron where there's just no fear running in that area. That's not to say we're completely clear to fear, but you know what? I think that's where we're going. I once saw a movie about the future. It was a guy, I can't even remember the name of the movie. And if you do remember, put it in the comments. Okay. This guy comes back from the future and he has a relationship with this woman. And one of the things that you'll know that we're talking about the same movie is she said, describe the future. And he took his finger, went like that. And then he put it around the glass, this crystal glass and it started to play a sound bowl, like play a sound instrument. And he's like, harmonics, like there's no fear. This is what the future is. And she said, how did we get rid of fear? And he said, we got rid of religion. So if you know the movie, put it down there because it was such a good movie. When I come back to timelines, there are two timelines and it is in the astrology. So let's get to that. There's fear and there's love. We have Mars opposing Pluto. We've had that for a while. This is the signature of war. Mars is freaking out of control right now, right? So Mars is retrograde. Mars is in Leo. Mars is going out of bounds. That means that it's kind of like going out of your mind. And, you know, incredible things can happen in that space too, right? Out of bounds can be like, I'm bringing in a possibility from somewhere else that's not here at all. So there's always these upsides, and then the downside is just an out of control anger that we've already seen play out this year on the world stage with war, with human atrocity. And that signature stays until the end of April. So indeed, there's two timelines. There's that timeline. And then something else is happening. Right now, Neptune is direct in Pisces at about 27 degrees. That is like right on my moon. So I get to bring this message. And think about this. We have Aries, North Node. So the North Node always retrogrades. We're getting ready for a Pisces North Node at the beginning of January. Or at the end if you use a different node calculation. But in January, the nodal axes change. And I talked so much about the North Node in Aries this year because it was such a game changer in claiming our sovereignty. It was the signature, honestly, of divorce. So many couples got a divorce. And women were just like, I'm so tired of this shit. I'm just done. That is the North Node in Aries. Opposite Libra, the South Node, the past. What we're leaving behind, Libra, relationships, also codependency. So those kinds of things got worked. So any old contracts that were based on these false agreements, disempowered agreements, they got blown up and they either got reconfigured or done. So we've been in that North Node in Aries. And if you think about the way that the nodal axis works, it goes retrograde. So it's now at 1 degrees of Aries, right next to Neptune in Pisces. So we have the future, the North Node, having a conversation with a direct Neptune. What I can make that mean is the higher octave of love, unconditional love. It's like, that's our future. Our future is love. And then they're going to be switching places. So they have this moment of this kiss, you know, right where they're at, and they're going to get a little bit closer and closer. They're finally going to be right on top of each other, and then they're going to move in opposite directions. Neptune moves really, really slowly. But then the North Node will enter Pisces, and Neptune will enter Aries. Saturn will also enter Aries. So you can see we're going from a Piscean ethos, which really brought spirituality to our world since 2011, like made it explode, to now a more Martian, Aries type, new beginnings. Aries is cardinal, new beginnings, and also a fire sign. So more on that later for 2025 and the nodal axes shift. But just so that you know that what's getting seeded right here and now, in my opinion, is this other timeline of love. Now, when I was in my medicine journey, I said I was going to weave that in. I began my medicine journey and it started to get like a little mechanical and dark. And those kinds of things are typical on the way to the journey. And as I was in that, I said, you know what? No, I'm a no to this. I'm a stand for love. Get me to the love. I'm a stand for it. And I realized that I had to fight for the love. So we're also in Gene Key 38, the sun and the moon. And that is the archetype of the fighter. So let's bring that in to our new moon discussion, because it's inviting us to fight for love. Now, what does that mean? Gun people down for love? No. It means like take a stand for it. And I'm not moving. You can't make me waver. And that's where I was. I was just crystal clear that I was a stand for love and that nothing was going to get me off of that stand. And so what happened? Well, those of you who are seasoned practitioners might know that I had to go down. So where did I go? I went into my grief, down. That's the pathway. And what opened up for me was two griefs, really. I grieved all the people who have lost their mommy. That's like, I've always had this kind of childhood thing. So that was there. And then I grieved one of my best soul sisters who was killed last month. And I'm so grateful for that medicine because it just removed all the structures, holding things together. And it gave me a space to literally fall in, down, and be with that grief. And it was quite beautiful. And that's the price of admission. So when that was complete, and I think we always think that grief is going to last forever and ever, because it does feel like falling into a black hole abyss, but truly, it lasts for like 5 minutes. It's deep, but it does its job. It's so thorough. And then all of a sudden you can feel a lightness and your mental conversation shifts and something else becomes possible or grabs your attention or takes you in that direction. And it was the love. I felt this radiance like the sun through my heart. I aligned with my purpose, and I knew that the energy behind my purpose and every action that I would do henceforth would be for love. That's what I'm talking about. That's here. Neptune, 27 degrees of Pisces, just saying, listen, I'm going to gift you, because we're with the North Node. I'm going to put that seed in this new moon, in this dark, fertile void of that ground, that fallow ground that's rich with minerals that we have been mineralizing with our tears, with our intention, with our actions on the mat, getting our asses kicked, but then getting back and doing it again. And that's mineralized this inner earth. And what gets sprouted is this new version of love. And I say new because it's something humanity has not been able to occupy as it's been coming out of its shadow frequency. And, when I talk about this in the gene keys, the shadow, the gift, and the city energy. And we'll always be contending with the shadow because we live in polarity. We live in dark and light. And we don't have to live in the shadow. It doesn't have to be our worldview. We can actually ascend in worldview as we heal ourselves, as we take in more perspectives, as we have the resourcefulness to see more. Addiction and people who are wounded, and the shadow frequency has a very narrow band of light. That was gene key 11. They're just narrow band of light. But as you heal, as your nervous system heals, as you start to know who you are, that opens, that aperture opens, and you take in more light. And as you take in more light, then more things are possible. And we need just enough of us to catalyze a shift in consciousness. And remember, in the trajectory of worldviews, crawling out of that shadow, everything is included and transcended. It's the only real hierarchical thing. And we create new worldviews as we evolve. So that's what's exciting. This is infinite. We have yet to even experience the sum total of who we are, because there's no such thing as sum total. It's just an expanding universe, an expanding cosmos, and science is now backing that up. If you caught my Gene Key 11 light stream on December 18th, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So our consciousness is expanding. Our view of the world is expanding. Our view of our place in it is expanding. Our view of our power, our potential, what's possible, our connection with love, all of that is expanding. And that's the other timeline. So there's enough that we can grok for this new moon. I think the things to ask ourselves is, what am I building? What am I starting to build right now? And what am I committing to? And you can feel it. It isn't a head exercise. It's an embodied exercise. What do you just know you're going to do? And so you get to make your intentions around that. And not just, I'm going to do that thing, but what are the building blocks that you're committed to put into place? Like the other day, I felt really called to change my cell phone service. I changed my banking service. I mean, those are big things. I mean, like, but Capricorn rules structure. And for some reason, I was like, you know what? I don't want to go forward with that bank. I want to go forward with that one. And I looked at new plans for my cell phone, got on board for that. It's just, I'm in action, shoring up the structures that support me to do the things that I'm doing that make more sense now that who I am now, because I now know where I want to go. Let's look at 2024 as this trial by fire period. Lots of breakdown, lots of change. And I'm not saying that it's fixed, there's still the dance that's happening in 2025, lots of movement, lots of parts, and there's some clarity that has arrived. So what is it that's clear for you now? That's part of the healing that transpired. So let's see if there's anything. Oh, I'll just say that every year I do the Moon in You, and it is a 28-page guidebook of all the new moons and the full moons of the year. Now, because this new moon starts off in 2024, we're actually starting 2025 with a full moon. So it creates 12 moons in that year, not 13. Super interesting. And we also have the axes change. We've got some eclipses, as we always do. So I've noted those inside of the Moon in You. And you can now download your copy. The cool thing about it is I do keynotes. I take a look at some of the other astrology. And so I write a keynote that incorporates some of the other astrology. It could be on the nose or not for you, use it or not. And then I ask you for your own power statements. For the full moon, they're going to be release statements. They're going to be gratitude statements. For the new moon, they're going to be intention and commitment statements. And because we have so many, 12 in 2025, you don't need to go really broad. Go with where that sign. So if it's a new moon in Aquarius, where is Aquarius in your chart? If it's your 10th house, and I use whole sign astrology to make it very easy, but if it's in your 10th house, then that could be your new moon intention for Aquarius in your house of reputation, house of career, house of weddings, so you can align it with that. So go ahead and grab that for 2025. And also, if you're in my area, which is the San Diego area, or you want to fly here and do a weekend retreat with me, I'm doing one in person January 31, February 1 and 2. And that is that mid time between seasons. So that's really right around the time that we start to feel the first buds of spring. So we're really going to be practicing some womb wisdom and wellness rituals. We have a few pujas that we do. Did it last year. It was super beautiful. And this is our wake up call for the spring energy. Right after that, Jupiter goes direct. Hallelujah. So lots of movement in a certain area of your chart. So let's gather all the positive energy from all of 2024, gathering it here. Thank you, 2024, and goodbye. Yeah, I got the teaching, and just beam it out, beam out our gratitude for the fact that we get to be here during this change of an age. And let's say it together. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll see you in 2025.